Welcome everybody to the Grimdark Breakdown, and we are here as usual, Meta Monday. We had a long holiday weekend, and holy mackerel, did we have a ton of games. We had so many games, in fact, that I didn't even pull in last week's because it was more games than we had in the entire month of December. I think it's partially getting over that holiday slump, but also the long holiday weekend. We had things like the Texas Open and the US Open in Palm Springs, which were both super majors, but had a lot of stuff.
Yep, we have officially kicked off the March to November for Worlds with the US Open in Palm Springs with some surprising results. If you didn't get a chance to watch those videos, I believe they have a couple of their rounds, or at least a game per round, up on the Warhammer YouTube page. If y'all want to check those out, I listened to while I was driving a U-Haul this weekend, the first game between a Blood Angels and Thousand Suns player, and it was nuts, especially turn one for the Blood Angels guy. Beyond that, we'll dive in, but just a reminder, we do have a giveaway going on for a little bit of Crute. That's our monthly giveaway.
It's a 10-man Crute Carnivore, it's a Flesh Shaper, and it's Vespid Stingwings, which are the guilty.
He knows what's in it because he's the one that's sending it.
Yeah,
But
because the box is sitting right over here.
right over there. But yeah, so if you want to be part of that giveaway, you can type meta into the comments below and like and subscribe, and do it on all the Meta Monday videos for an additional chance, I guess, to win. And we will be announcing that giveaway soon, won't we, Drake?
Yeah, so we'll do it the first week of February. What I'm going to do is it's really easy on YouTube to just take all the comments. So I'm going to take all the comments, and then I'm going to basically put it into chat and have it randomly select me somebody. I'll go and make sure they're on the subscriber list, and then I'll pull up one of the videos. And as long as they've liked one of the Meta Mondays, they're a subscriber, then I will reach out and we will send it to you. So you'll probably get it right around Valentine's Day.
A hell of a gift in case your significant other, if you have one, doesn't like Warhammer and you want some plastic.
Yeah, not a bad way to pick up 2 10-mans and a character. All right, why don't you kick us off with the Lonely Island of Misfit Toys to start us off?
Oh, they are Misfit toys. I mean, if we look at the Space Marine umbrella here, I mean, these different groups under the Space Marine umbrella, as I would like to call it, they're on the shaft part down at the bottom. They're not winning anything. Not to say they're not frisky and fun every now and then, but they're down at the bottom. Imperial Knights, Chaos Knights, their time in the sun has come. People have figured out their stat check that they've got going on. There's only so many times you can throw a big knight on the middle, but the armies we're talking about here for the Space Marine shaft are like the Salamanders, the White Scars, the Iron Hand, the Imperial Fist, the Black Templar, the Raven Guard. Frisky and fun every now and then. I think AdMech's still feeling their way through their points nerf. Imperial Knights, Chaos Knights, again, they're just, they're in a funky spot until a new codex comes out. Then they might do well again. Agents of the Imperium, I don't ever see them moving from 0. Well, they had one every now and then, but I mean,
I got a funny story about agents. Tiny story.
Go.
Texas Open. We're at the end. We're at the awards, giving best in faction, right? And they go, they go best in faction, agents of the Imperium, and everybody looks around and they go, "We had one. He wins by default. He was the only one, so he got best in faction. He only won one game. Bless his heart."
So if you want free shit,
Yeah,
play Agents of the Imperium,
don't
borrow the
do it.
rest from somebody else.
It's not worth the plaque.
It's not worth it, but it is if you want free stuff.
All right, moving on. Okay, so looking at the 1 wins, Tyranid, Subterranean Assault, I firmly believe is actually one of the most underrated detachments. I think that more and more people are seeing. I saw a lot of them, in the top table range this weekend, so I think they're good. Berserker Warband is a solid army, solid detachment. I do think World Eaters got some unnecessary nerfs that will probably get toned back in about 2 months. I think they're in an okay spot, not a great spot. Girls, my lovely girls, I think that they're good. I think you can win small events. It's tough, and the bigger ones, it just is tough right now. Votan surprised us all, having a top 4 placing and Palm Springs. I think it's pretty cool to see the squats doing well. Space Wolves, I actually did fight this weekend. We're going to do a Texas Open breakdown later this week going through that, but they were one of my matchups. Really, really nice player. He had a cool army. I think they're in a tough spot though. Chaos Space Marines, they've got a million selections, so you almost always see them with a couple wins. And Gene Stealer for the first time popping out, you know, I actually didn't see any Gene Stealer cult. I'm sure they were there, but just like in the lore, they were hidden, and I did not see them at the Texas Open.
Now, I will say this about Leagues of Votan. When I went to Worlds, there was a ton of Leagues of Votan players. So, with all these model releases and stuff they keep getting,
There'll be
expect
more
to
and
see.
more.
All right. The Jakari, MSU mainly, they're still seeing time in the meta. Dark Elves, their counterpart, Aldari, you're still seeing them. Chaos Demons, they're still there. They're still vying for their codex, as I've said in every one of these videos. And Grey Knights, they're shooting, they're up Downey, they're around. Wish they'd get some new kits, but they're still here in the meta right now.
Yeah, Death Watch actually surprised me. There was a couple at the Texas Open, but not a ton. They did well. They're very similar to Grey Knights, a little less elite, so they have a few more units, but not anything crazy. Dark Angels, I'm not surprised. So both of the placers I saw, they were both at the Texas Open. Guy that placed first and guy that placed third were both playing Dark Angels. I actually played Cam, who placed first and won the Texas Open. I played him. His list is very good. He's a very good player. He's a super cool dude. He's a fucker because he came down from Oklahoma to win the Texas Open, but that's cool. He's a super good dude. We had a really good game. I'm going to do a breakdown of that game, but I think Dark Angels, they're in a really good spot. You just have to be a very good player. But I think, including myself, we had there's four Dark Angels that finished in the top 25, and it was a 200 player tournament. So, they had a very good showing. They had a very good showing. 20% of the top 25 is not bad. Shifting on up.
Because Custodes, I'm surprised to see them with 3 wins. I mean, you'll briefly touch on them during your breakdown because I think that was your first round match, but
It was.
I think we're going to see a lot more of the Golden Boys, especially when their new plastic range finally hits.
Holy smack, man. They
It only
basically did
took a
everything.
year,
It took way longer than a year, brother. Those resin models have been out for years.
but they are one of the cheapest armies to get into because of their point value.
Dude, they just got cheaper. Think
They
about
just
it.
got cheaper.
They were considered one of the cheapest armies to collect while they had resin dreadnoughts and tanks. Now that they're gonna have plastic ones, shit.
You say now they're going to see the point drop to make sure everybody got it.
Well, dude, and they're about to get a giant box set that's gonna have a ton of that stuff.
Yeah.
If you ever wanted to pick up a Custodes army, the box set that is clearly coming, that is your ticket, man.
Yeah. Death
I
Guard.
played Death Guard also at the Texas Open.
Yeah, because I got an 8 a.m. phone call about that.
I
Wanting
didn't know what the detachment did. I was like, what the fuck does this attachment
a
do?
quick little snippet of a stat check. It's Taliban, which is the demon detachment for Death Guard that's still hanging around, causes some nuisances, especially when you bring 2 great unclean ones in Eroticus.
That's all, by the way. That's all it was at the Texas. I mean, I think there was one other list. All you saw on tables that were stinky was 3 fat boys running
Yep.
up the board.
Yep. Not a lot of MSU in that.
By the way, one of them goes to their expansion. The other 2 in every list go to that middle point.
Yep. Make you tag team the big boys. And VV's the all around detachment. A lot of shooting, a lot of reroll shenanigans they have in their strats. But I mean, still hanging around.
Mm-hmm. Thousand Suns. I did see some Thousand Suns. Rubric Marines have been carrying that entire book for a hot minute. There was a lot of those out there. There was a good amount of Necrons. Seemed like a pretty healthy blend of everything. There was Catons on tables, Silent Kings. I saw a fucking monolith on one table. That was pretty cool. They were doing well. They were doing well.
Here's the thing.
Tau. Yeah.
I was going to say about Necrons, if you ever run against a Necron player and they're throwing 3 shards at you, or they're throwing a Silent King and a shard at you, they're just trying to stat check you. I mean, you're going to have to, like Necrons, you can either play it to where you're trying to get better or you're trying to stat check somebody. And
yeah,
I mean,
because you got to keep in mind they heal and everything else. I personally view them the same as Death Guard. Like when I played the Death Guard player, I did ask Jason. I was like, "Hey, what do they do? What does this thing do?" Because I wanted to make sure there wasn't something I'm missing. Because the way you beat a stat check army is there's only 2 ways. There's either A, I'm going to kill your stat check, and that breaks your entire game, or B, I'm going to completely ignore your stat check, which is what I did against the Death Guard player, and I'm going to kill the rest of your army.
The
And
point
then
scores.
can you play the game with 2 things? Same thing with Necrons. can you play the game with 3 Katans? Because it'll play very similar, and we'll do a breakdown of this. But in the Death Guard game, his Great Unclean one, rushed 5 of my Terminators. My Terminators are not going to kill him, but here was the fun part. His dude was only 4 OC. My Terminators, without even popping a stratagem, were 5. So I just kind of giggled, and I out OC'd him. Then he'd kill some, and then I'd pop a stratagem to give him more OC, and I'd still out OC him. You do the same thing against those. Tau, though, I was very surprised to see Tau win the U.S. Open out there in Palm Springs, but I think Tau are in a good place, and they clearly they had some terrain layouts that I think favored them, but they're doing well. And the biggest surprise to me, so orcs, are one of those armies when players are good at orcs, they're good at orcs, and they can do very well. And orcs can be tough, especially on boards that give them good cover. Here's the shock: one of the 3 lists that's on here, one a GT with more Dakka. And I actually have the list because it is, when I saw it, is one of the wildest things I've ever seen. So his name is Mark Perry. Yeah, and he won the Coastal Assault. So I'm gonna read his list just super quick, because Mordaka is the one that got nuked into the sun. So Boss Snickrot, Gazgul, pretty simple. Wartsnaga, pretty simple. Here's the part where things get spicy. He had 6 10-man bricks of boys. That's 60 boys. He had 3x3 9 war bikes. Then he had a 20-man Gretchen, I'm sure, to screen his backfield. Then he had another thing of Gretchen running out. Then he had 3 commandos. Those guys have infiltrate. He had a mega knob, a big gun to go with it, and then 3 storm boys. So what I'm guessing this guy did by reading his list is he had 3 commandos for those infiltrates that he went, and their job was to basically screen and make sure that those boys could get out. And then those boys flooded the board with those mega knobs behind and those war bikes. And he played a jail, hold you in, orcs using the orcs can be orc stratagem. So I think it's a super interesting list. I'm curious to see, some good players once they kind of get that inspiration and see what they do. And a shout out to Mark, who has been on the channel and done a couple videos, and we'll have him on. He had his best tournament finish ever. He went 3-3 with orcs at the Texas Open. And Tyranids down there are another person we're going to have on that went to his very first tournament and brought a Herodian, which is the giant dragon, and actually picked up 2 wins with it. So
he brought Dragonite to the table.
Yeah.
Got to catch them all, I guess.
All right. I'm going to cover one of these, and I'm going to let Jace cover the other 2. So Emperor's Children, I played. It was actually, it was one of my losses this weekend. I'm actually, while I'm talking about this, going to look up the guy's name, because he was such a cool dude and such a good player. I want to give him a shout out real quick. But it was super fun. So I wasn't super familiar with Emperor's Children. I had played an Emperor's Children player before, but not someone of his caliber. And so to me, they move really fast and they hit pretty hard, but it wasn't, in my opinion, I didn't think there were anything crazy. His name's Eric Brody, and I played him in round 5, and I had never played an Emperor's Children player before. That was what I came to the quick conclusion of. Their speed is insane. Nothing just hits insanely hard other than their Demon Prince's mortals, but it's just a lot of chip damage. But the biggest thing is man, their speed, it's all like, you just have to accept that you're not going to contain them and they're just going to run around and do things. It was a very good game. It was a very, very well played game by Eric. I'll dive into the breakdown even more of it, but I thought Emperor's Children were strong after playing Emperor's Children. I know how to better play against them now, but I think they are extremely well positioned in the meta. I believe he ended up finishing like 10th or 11th overall out of 200 people to Texas Open with them. So yeah, very, very, very good list.
Blood Angels are still just up there. They had their book. Their book had a couple of detachments in it. Then they had their Grotmus detachment that come out that really caught wind, and it's propelled them. They are just tough. They are the Imperial side of World Eaters. They just, if they get in you, they're pointed right to where they can sacrifice a little bit and get a lot out of it.
Yeah, they're not, that means they're not pointed right. They're too fucking cheap.
Yeah, but still, I mean, you're not seeing them take down everything.
No, but they're good. They're good.
They're good. And then you got the Astra Militarum, the human cockroaches is what I'm going to call them. And I'm sorry if I offend people because I know everybody plays them for the World War II aesthetic. But, you know, they're going to zerg the board like Tyranids, but of humans.
With a million guns.
With a million guns, they're the type of army, if you've got the shooting power, just take out their scoring units. Make those big tanks, get off the shooting lines, make them go score some secondaries.
The hard part, though, right now, brother, I'm
Yeah.
telling you, because I saw them, a lot of the guard lists right now are running 2 to 3 20-man bricks and then 2 to 3 25-man bricks. So that scoring unit isn't like 10 Cachetans that you can just shoot. They're a problem when they're running at that kind of volume and they have good buffs and good things.
I'm just curious what GW will do about them because, I mean, it's great for them. It sells models,
Sells a lot of models.
a lot of models.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
keeping
Running
that.
guard that way is expensive. Like guard is a weird army because guard can actually be a very cheap army to get into because if you want a Rogel, it's 250 points. So running 2 Rogels, that's 500 points. You're a fourth of the way there. You could have 3 tanks, and you only bought 3 models. The problem is that when you want to buy that 25-man brick, you're buying 3 different boxes just to get that. So it's 150 points just to get that 200 points. So it can become an expensive one.
Oh, yeah. Shout out to our boy Chris that's been on this channel. I mean, he's only got 11,000 points of guard.
Yeah, he's got a couple of them. All right. So now we're going to actually get to the really fun part of the video. So let's
Violet,
look.
you're turning violet.
Wait a minute. So, okay. So we had these 3 armies. They got 4 placings. And
Yeah.
if you guys didn't notice, all the armies with 1, we briefly touched on. We gave the 2s a little bit more love, 3s a little bit more, and then we went in. But man, when you look at the 4s, I mean the 5s, there's nobody. Nobody had 5 placings. Nobody had 6 placings. And then there's one army that had 7 placings this weekend.
Feel the hammer.
Ultramarines. So here's a real thing. The super major I played in this weekend had 200 people around it. 28 of them, the most represented army is Ultramarines. Ultramarines are always super duper popular because they're the guys on the box, all that kind of stuff. But here's the thing. If you take off your hat of whatever army you play, here's why Ultramarines are doing so well. You could blame Vitrix, you could blame, Typhus, you could blame all these things, but that's not the actual answer. I've played them a lot recently. I can tell you that this is in my opinion, this is what it is. They have extremely efficient shooting. Yes, are there armies that have better shooting? Sure. They have extremely efficient shooting. When you give them Oath of Moment with +1 to wound, and they can do it twice, I think that they have the best shooting in the game. Then when you say, okay, by the way, you also have a unit that is probably the best skirmisher in the game in Vitrix Guard, it's a better melee unit for its points than Blood Angels or Dark Angels or Black Templar have access to. Do they have stuff that hits harder or is tougher? But when you just talk about a well-rounded unit, it's got +1 to wound built into its data sheets, 3 wounds, hits like a brick shithouse. So all of those things, just what it does is it goes, hey, I've got something I'm going to go put out in front of you. I've got some cheap stuff because I have access to the largest army range in the entire game to stand on the points. And then I have the most efficient shooting in the entire game that is shooting into you. And it's tough to deal with. They are an army that truly, right now, it's not always this way, right now, it feels like they have access to every single rule. And when you're playing them, you have access to 30% of the rules. And it's rough. It's very rough. I do think that this is going to sound hard. I don't think they can solve it in 10th edition. I think when they reworked Oath of Moment, it broke Ultramarines and they've been broke since. And the only thing that just made it worse was the only thing they didn't have was a skirmisher. And then they gave them a skirmisher. And then after that, they gave them 40 wounds for 90 points, which is the greatest, expansion point holder there is. So it's just one of those situations where I think you could go to almost any YouTube channel on the internet and they're going to tell you Space Marines need to lose Oath of Moment as a whole. Let Salamanders and Imperial Fist and like all of the Codex compliant guys. Let them have Oath of Moment with +1 to wound. But just like they did with Black Templar, Ultramarines need their own army rule, Dark Angels need their own army rule, Blood Angels need their own army rule, and that way they can balance. The ultimate way to balance would be to balance the point cost of Space Marines per army. They won't do that, I don't believe, but I just don't see. There's a lot of ways they could fix it. None of them are easy, and I don't see any of them coming in 10th. This is all they're going to do, guys, in full transparency. They're just going to hike up some of their points. And the problem with this, which this is the problem if you play Space Marines, so you just suck it up, Buttercup. It is what it is. And you're talking to somebody who just played Dark Angels at a tournament. If, perfect example, they're running Redemptor Dreadnoughts a lot of the time. Redemptor Dreadnoughts are going to go up for everybody. Some Dark Angel players are running Redemptors. Yours are going to go up in points too. Just no different than when Blood Angels were running, intercessors with jump packs, and they went up in points and up in points again because in Blood Angels they were much stronger. So that is the curse that is the generic Space Marine units and how they are treated. And I think that's what we'll see. Because the problem is if they just go after their characters, then there's nothing special about playing Ultramarines, and they'll just go play one of the other chapters.
I mean, I look at it this way. Either way, they're going to sell models. I
Sure.
mean, because your blueberries that you've painted blue are no longer viable. Okay, I'm going to paint them red, and I've got me some blood angels now. So, or proxy blood angels. I think Vitrix, even though they made them lower in wounds and a little bit increased cost, they're still very
They're
efficient.
the most efficient skirmisher in the game right now.
So if they were to, and this is just outward thinking, just throwing something at the wall, see if it sticks. I see them going up another 10 or 15 points with the next data slate.
Yeah,
Just
it
be-
might be. It might be even a little more than that.
But you've got to find some way if they're not going to change oath the moment and they want to make it viable for the other armies to compete against them at these major events, even though Tal won the first US Open, Votan came in second, which both those shocked me completely.
Well, but here's the thing with those RJs. Those are experts. So an expert at Tau is great, but a good player at Ultramarines is beating the general public, which is where the problem comes in. So
Yeah.
Cam, the gentleman who won the Texas Open, he and I were talking about this exact problem, and we'll wrap up. But he had actually, I thought, a really good idea. He said GW doesn't need to reinvent the wheel. Gladius is the most popular detachment. It's the one that lets you have advance and charge for one turn, lets you have assault for one turn, and lets you fall back and shoot and charge in one turn. He goes, they need to make that Ultramarines army rule. He was like, the number one detachment for Blood Angels is on the charge, you get +2 strength and +1 attack. Make that their army rule. Dark Angels, they're all running Wrath of the Rock for that. If strength is higher than toughness, +1 to wound. Make that their army rule. Take the best detachment, the one that everyone's running, and turn that into their army rule. Because the only army that's probably going to potentially suffer from losing Oath is Ultramarines, because Blood Angels, Black Templar, and Dark Angels, all their elite units hit on 2s anyway. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So I think something like that could be really cool. But at the end of the day, I will say, with the exception of Ultramarines, this is what we want to see. This is a super healthy game. This is really good. This tells me that the armies are in a really balanced place. There's obviously some armies that are always going to need some love, and that's just the nature of the beast. But if you're good at your army, you can win. You can absolutely win. So just a reminder, we do have the Crute giveaway going on for this week and next week. So if you like the video, subscribe, and you can comment up to, I think, 4 times. There's 4 Mondays in January for 4 chances to win. You'll be entered to win 10 Crute Carnivore, 10 Vespids, and 1 Flesh Shaper that I will send out right at the end of January, and we'll announce the winner on the first Meta Monday in February. So
yep. Next week's your last Monday.
It is. So drop a like for the Emperor, subscribe for more content like this, and remember, in the grim darkness of the far, far future, there is always more to break down.